motion that the school board convene, excuse me, may I have a motion that the school board, that the closed meeting be closed, and the board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only the public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting to which this certification applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion concerning the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Honeycutt and a second by Mr. Edwards. Roll call?
Mr. Sturdivant,
Abstain.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
All right, now we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance and observe a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Superintendent, we have some recommendations or recognitions.
We do. Thank you very much, Mr. Ritchie and members of the board. We have our monthly recognitions that we would like to bring up, as well as a special one tonight, and I'd like Ms. Height to come up and present these.
Good evening, Chairman Ritchie, Mr. Nichols, school board members. Tonight I have two seniors of the month that I would like to recognize, and I would like to start with our first senior of the month from Bluestone High School, Destiny Cottrell Hargrove. Destiny? Destiny Hargrove is Bluestone High School's January Senior of the Month. She is the daughter of Kevin and Crystal Hargrove, and she lives in Clarksville, Virginia. And she has a great personality and a very strong work ethic. She is a candidate for an advanced diploma, and upon graduation, she would like to attend college, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. She is in the Beta Club. She is in the Youth of Virginia Speak Out Club. She is on the cheerleading squad. She is on the track team, and she's on the prom committee, so you can see that she stays very busy. Ms. Mosley is her cheerleading sponsor as well as the Yosevo sponsor, and she speaks very highly, and I'm going to quote something from Ms. Mosley. Destiny Hargrove is a very intelligent and hardworking young lady that can be put in a role of leadership if need be, or she can follow directions when they are given to her. She is motivated to achieve that which is best for her. She works hard, and from what I have seen, comes out in the top percentile because she wants to be on that level of academic learning. Destiny's British literature teacher, Mrs. Kimberly Ritchie, says, Destiny Hargrove is a highly motivated student with a charming personality. She has been successful in dual enrollment student, and she's very active as a cheerleader at Bluestone High School. She's a joy to have in class, not only for her work ethic, but for her contributions to class discussion, but also because she is friendly and positive. Both of these statements are a testament to Destiny's capabilities. She likes to hang out with her friends, she likes to shop, she likes to listen to music, and she also enjoys taking a nap every now and then. And she is a joy to be in her company. Destiny plans to attend Virginia State University and major in psychology, and she is very interested in working with people. Bluestone High School is very proud to have Destiny as their Senior of the Month. Thank you.
And Ms. Height, when you're done with, I guess you got two more, maybe we can have a minute for the board members to step down and speak.
Yes, sir, thank you. Our second senior that we would like to recognize tonight is Samantha Lynn Pierce, and she is from Parkview High School. Samantha? Samantha Lynn Pierce is known by most people as Sam. She is a dedicated student, and she is a top academic achiever at Parkview High School. She is the daughter of Bryant and Deborah Pierce, and they live in South Hill. And she is a member of South Hill United Methodist Church, where she is the president of her youth group there. She also attends the administrative meetings for her church. She is involved in the community outreach programs at her church, and she participates in lots of other community service activities. Sarah hopes to always be in a position to help her community because she believes it's very important to give back to her community. She feels that she is very blessed, and she wants to return that blessing to others. Sam is involved in many extracurricular activities. She's in the Beta Club. She's on the varsity golf team. She helped her team this year with the district championship. She's in the drama club, where she also has lots of leading roles and is sometimes seen as the star of the show. She also works part-time as a babysitter and works in her parents' business. It's a dry cleaning business. And she likes to do that because she likes to earn her own spending money. She also believes that her parents are very hard workers, and she was raised that way, so she wants to continue on with that work ethic. Wendy Kidd is the Beta Club sponsor, and she recommended Sam for this honor. Samantha is a great student. She is dedicated and helpful. She did a great job with our coat drive, and she always strives to do her best. Sam does attend Governor's School, and she will graduate with an associate degree from Southside Virginia Community College. She's already been accepted at VCU, but she's awaiting to hear from NC State. She wants to go into fashion design, and she wants to live in a city, and I feel certain she will be very successful. So congratulations to Samantha, Parkview High School's Senior of the Month. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Nichols and school board members, the last recognition for tonight is our spelling bee winner. On January the 12th, we held our division spelling bee right here in this room, and we would like to recognize tonight Taisha Royster. She is an 8th grader at Parkview Middle School as the winner. Taisha? Taisha will be representing Mecklenburg County Public Schools on March the 11th at the Library of Virginia in Richmond, and we'd like to wish her the best of luck.
All right, well, thank you,
All
Ms.
right.
Haight.
Thank you.
Now, the board members will take a minute to,
Yeah, I believe I do want those that are being awarded tonight to come back up in this area so that we
Right.
can congratulate them. So if all three would come up, we'd appreciate it. Yes, actually, as all of you are aware, I'm in my second year and had a great first year as although many things happened, I felt it was a great first year. And I want to say a very special thank you as part of recognition to the board for your support in this. But I also have a recognition that I would like to present. I didn't allow Ms. Haight to do this. I took it upon myself. But I would like to say thank you to Ms. Dorgoner as vice chair for the 2016 school year, and to Mr. Sturdivant as chair. My first year, which will always be memorable to me, and I want to say thank you very much. Thank you. All right. All right, moving on to superintendent's report and informational items. I am very pleased that in the past year, as you know, we have been working to create strong partnerships that will give our students many opportunities, both from the academic, career, technical programs, but also from informal education opportunities to move towards the successful careers in the 21st century. There is absolute data that shows that students get a lot of their support and acquire knowledge from the informal education opportunities that they engage in. And tonight, we are pleased that we have had a chance to work with the State Boy Scouts Association. We're looking to work with the 4-H Club. We've had conversations with them. We've looked to work with many. But the 4-H, the Boy Scout program now has opportunities that are right along the lines of real-world career experiences. You all have in front of you the brochure on Discover Your Future for exploring. I have asked both and we're glad to have both the district Boy Scout leader and the state Boy Scout leader with us, who's going to give a presentation on opportunities that will begin this school year and into the summer for our students, I think particularly middle school students, to do some career exploration that will fit right in with the goals that we have for them for these. And so if you will, let us welcome our representatives.
Hello. My name is Bill Givler. I'm with the Heart of Virginia Council of the Boy Scouts of America. The council office is in Richmond, and we serve about 24 counties. This is one of the counties we serve. My colleague is Alan Crump. He's the district executive who directly serves Mecklenburg County. Thank you for allowing us to come and speak to the school board, and also for the placement on the agenda early. That's fantastic. Sorry, I had a lot of business to conduct tonight. We'll be brief. You're probably very familiar with our traditional scouting programs of Cub Scouting and Boy Scouting. And we have a strong tradition of Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts here in Mecklenburg County. Right now there's about 100 young people we serve across 6 different Cub Scout packs and Boy Scout troops across the county. We were approached last month by Superintendent Nichols to sit down and talk about the possibility of incorporating some of our Cub Scout and Boy Scout advancement items, badges that young people work on, into the MARI system. So in your packet of stuff, please turn to the very back section, and there's these 3 handouts. And just very briefly, I wanted to show you how we're able to impact the development of young people. The first thing you'll see is this Cub Scout advancement requirement document. These are the requirements we actually have for kids in the 1st grade to earn their badge during the course of a school year. And if you look at the right-hand side of this, we call the different things they have to earn adventures. On that very first page, there's some samples of requirements that they have to do. Requirement 4 there, be helpful to nature while planting a plant, shrub, or tree. Learn more about the needs and growths of the item you've planted. Requirement 5, build and hang a birdhouse. There's, just for 1st grade, about 10 pages of that stuff. So a sample of some of the things that we can provide to the school system that we can track with kids who are involved in scouting through the MARI program. Also, second document is rank advancement for older boys. Young men who are in our Boy Scout program. These are kids in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And some of the requirements that they have to earn to gain ranks in Boy Scouts. Again, the whole idea is creating essentially a digital way to track this, and encouraging young people to be involved in some informal development educational activities like scouting. But the main thing I want to talk about is the program we currently don't have in Mecklenburg County, and that's our Exploring program. We offer a co-ed program for middle school and high school students to learn specifically about what it takes to go into a career field. And that's what this document gets into in depth. We, the Boy Scouts, form a partnership with a local business or agency that is willing to teach young people about careers in a particular field, give them experiential learning opportunities, hands-on stuff happening usually after the school day. And we have a kind of a summary, one-page summary that's also in the back of the packet with the other two documents. It talks about the 12 different career clusters that we have Explorer posts in. Everything from careers in health and medicine, careers in communications, engineering and technology, law enforcement, fire and EMS, so forth. We're interested and willing to expend time, energy, and dollars to get these programs up and running here in Mecklenburg County, especially if there's opportunities to get young people engaged in this. Right now, across our 24-county footprint, we have about 19 different Explorer posts. Most of these are in Metro Richmond, not here. But we have experience organizing these, and we think the community is ready for something like this. So that's my formal presentation, and I'm ready, willing, and able to answer questions that you might have.
Would you go into the school setting to work on this project, or do you set it up in the community and let the kids come to you?
We could do both. Traditionally, the model is for our high school age Explore programs, those kids who usually have transportation are going to go to a business or an agency and receive instruction and gain knowledge from people in that setting. Middle school is different. And in those kinds of, in middle school programs, the idea is to work with local volunteers who are specialists in different career fields and have them come into the schools and deliver a program there also.
And if I might add, and we have a presentation tonight from Mr. John Carney about the MARI system that we are working to put in place. We're excited about this opportunity because with our 6 career center concept that we're pursuing as a part of high school redesign, the various career clusters that they're covering are ones that we will be looking for students to investigate so that they can be prepared for the credentialing opportunities and opportunities within the working world, such as apprenticeships, internships, job shadowing opportunities for the very same thing. We see it as a great way to be able to get our middle school students, at least maybe even some of the elementary school students, exploring these careers so that they will know. And you'll see the presentation in a little bit, because what MARI gives us the opportunity to do, which we've not been able to do before, is actually track the students' progress in these areas with digital badges, as he was mentioning, very much like the Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Girl Scout badges, and be able to give them credits and points for what they're doing as it applies toward the career goals that they have and helps them set those things. So that when we ask them about beginning a pathway towards a credential, they will have a good, strong foundation in knowing what they're interested in doing as they move forward with that opportunity. So it's a great partnership that gives the student the benefit of what they love to do outside of school being appropriately pointing back to what they may not necessarily love to do in school, but they see that there's a point to it. It's a practical application for what they're learning, perhaps theoretically, in school.
Other questions?
Would this program kind of work in line with like hunter safety with the game wardens and types of things like that?
It could, and I'm not totally sure what exactly you are doing hunter safety-wise in the schools.
No.
Yeah, we would be happy to work with any any entity. You know, the thing that that we're interested in that's exciting to us is the ability to partner with education to help kids. We often have, in terms of scouting, we have scout troops that usually meet in church basements, and Cub Scout packs that meet in community centers. We are engaged lightly with schools, usually through some sort of fall recruiting effort, inviting kids to join scouting. We're excited about the idea of our programs being integrated in some of the activities that that kids are doing, and especially our exploring programs designed to give young people who are in middle school and high school a chance to make an informed decision about their future careers and about their future higher education desires. What's it going to take to be a doctor? Well, they're going to learn that through a Health Careers Explore post. We struggle to get kids to get involved in our programs. And if we're talking about the badges and the involvement in our programs being tied to some of their school requirements, well, that's awesome, and we're fully on board that. We want to help however we can, and so does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Campbell, this is one option. We've given digital badges already for our cyber camp opportunities that the community college is continuing to work with us on. We've given digital badges to students who've participated in the Young Little Theater program, hunter safety courses. There are many opportunities that students can get involved with. Some of them could be online classes, and we're now able to give credit for those things and see how they apply to the goals that they're setting for their future and personalize their learning opportunities with a good mixture of the two. So we're excited about this potential connection for our students.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Now, that being said, I've asked Mr. John Carney, who has been working very closely with us, both I in the superintendent's role, administrators, particularly the counselors. The counselors have been working for the past year on putting together a plan that we'll be bringing to you probably at the February meeting that is a comprehensive K-12 career literacy program. And the career literacy issues engage academic, career and technical education, the informal education activities such as what we've just heard with the Boy Scouts. It incorporates opportunities for church-related functions, for travel. It opens doors for career exploration, but also for career and credential attainment throughout their lives. The program actually belongs to the student for use in career literacy that is lifelong. We're pleased to have a chance to take advantage of the various tools that it brings to the table for us, and Mr. Carney is going to talk with you about what some of those tools look like already. We've integrated and talked with local businesses, and he'll be sharing many of those options. We might need lights to be able to see this correctly.
So just real briefly, MARI is short for Marianas Trench, so the deepest place on the planet, and it's where you keep all of your knowledge, skills, and abilities throughout your lifetime as a student, right? And you can grow and you can add to it. One easy way to think about MARI then is that it's like your healthcare repository, your electronic health record, but for knowledge, skills, and abilities. And then what we've done is we've said, hey, what we're going to do with all that information is we're going to create a GPS for your students. So where am I? Where do I want to go? What's the best path for me to be able to get there? So it's, hey, I've got all this great data, and now I'm going to turn it into a GPS for where I want to go. For me, growing up, I grew up in rural North Carolina, and so not too far from here. And I was one of 5 kids in the middle somewhere in the shuffle. And for me, growing up, I really never connected what I was learning in my K-12 education with where I wanted to go. It was only later that I realized that, hey, this math, this stuff, I am actually going to need it for what I really need to do in the real world. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to connect kids in a holistic way, not just with their academics, but their whole person. So what are my interests? What are the things I'm doing outside of school? And how do I combine all of that into who I am? And then where do I want to go? And can we help kids get there quicker? And so what you're seeing right now is, in essence, the launch pad. So all kids will get into the launch pad, and you can kind of see you've got an academic and career planner that's down here in the lower right. Kind of in the middle there, you've got Portrait of a Graduate. And we'll now go into another screen on the launch pad. So next screen. And so now I'm in my Portrait of a Graduate, or my profile of a graduate. And right now, your school counselors are defining what that means for you all. And so it's not just that there's some monolithic profile of a graduate. It's what does that mean for you all? We can actually put that destination in MARI, and then the students can progress there to get there. And they can get there with badges and points. It can be field trips that they're taking that actually add up to points that they can get. But this can happen very early on in elementary school, middle school, and then into high school. And you can see I've got I call them a me map, right? That's my map to financial literacy, or my map to where I am for algebra. Not my grades, but my real skills. Next slide. So this is where you start to take all those skills, and this would be the math that I need for these jobs and how I'm doing. So not just math to get an A in algebra, but what's the math that I actually need to do to work down at the High Performance NASCAR Center? So I'm actually a tire builder here, the fourth one down. What's the math that I need? Well, it turns out I need a lot of math. A lot of kids will say, hey, I'm just going to be a power line technician. Well, it turns out that when you talk to power line technicians, they actually need a lot of math, a lot of fractions that kids typically don't get. And if they stop math before they finish they can stop math in the 10th grade, they actually don't have that capability to get the math all the way through. MARI, as a big data platform, also has what we call a forget curve. So we can actually predict how much a student will forget if they stop taking math in the 10th grade. What's their ability to pass the community college math placement test in that case? Right now we're working with Gary Cyphers so that students at the end of the year, in the spring, they will be able to know what the math requirement is for their next carpentry class, and do they already have those skills or not. So over the summer, they can actually get those skills to be able to know where they are and start the year ready to go. Next slide. Talked about digital badges. So these are these other kinds of things. They can be awarded anywhere. So talked about drama, your drama camp, your cybersecurity camp, gun safety. All of those kinds of things create skills that tend to get lost, and even in the sense of a badge. So what MARI does, when we actually put a badge into MARI, it actually has all of that data that goes with it that said, what are the skills that you got in being able to do that? Next slide. The heart of it, where a student starts, and your students have already started going through the academic and career planner. And so this would be a student's academic and career plan, and they actually pick their top occupation choice, which is up in the top left here. Of course, that changes once a week, right? As students think about different things, and they can actually go into MARI and change that. Hey, I want to put a new #1 occupation, my #1 higher ed choice, my top goals, and this is something that can, of course, get printed out and shared with parents. Next slide. What students are able to start creating in MARI from the very beginning is what we call the career kit. So this is where not only does it combine grades, next slide, but it's now, here are the occupations and jobs that they have as goals. And so not just then to say, hey, I want to go do this, but if you take a look on the MARI match area there, it says, well, how do I actually match up to the skills that are required? Next slide. Typically what a student would see is, and typically what we all see, is this big, huge mound of text that says, hey, here's what's required for a job. And you can imagine if you're not looking for a job as a middle schooler or a high schooler, this is like, it's not very helpful. Next slide. So what we've done is taken that, worked with employers to turn that into what are the essential skills. So that would be planning, organizing, teamwork, collaboration, things that you can actually measure in elementary school, middle school, and high school, not just the technical skills that they need. And this is what we're really focusing on with you all. Next slide. So we're working with the employers, and I'll show you a list. We've had some wonderful conversations. Every one of them has volunteered to participate and to spend time to actually create these lower level breakouts. Next slide. But you can see now as I break out proactive communication, just like you all define what your profile of a graduate is, a business defines that particular skill in their organization. There's no monolithic proactive communication. You know, for some service organizations like fast food, they just say, hey, you need to communicate at least 5 minutes before something's going to happen using the right appropriate channel. So if it's 5 or 10 minutes before, don't send me an email. You need to either text me or call me. But that's actually a skill. And so we can actually help students understand that particular skill. And you can see over on the right-hand side, here's my verification history, which was my Virginia Career Wizard skill assessment, and I also have a school counselor that actually helped inform me about what that skill was and helped give me feedback. And then there are resources there that you all have defined as a school system to say, here's how you close that gap. Next slide. And the last piece then is this work to say your community needs to be involved in this, and how, you know, what we've tried to do is create a way for MARI to sustainably connect businesses, not the hey, let's have a meeting and we support you, and then your students need to be better and we go away. How do we get businesses to sustainably connect and keep those job profiles active? We've had some wonderful meetings with Gary and Superintendent Nichols. As I said, volunteer. What we've found is, as we have some of these folks that are in the list and providing support, other companies see the list and they want to be a part of it as well. So we're excited about going forward as this becomes incredibly solidified, with students being able to know that they've got a career kit that they're building. As Superintendent Nichols said, the students are able to take this with them. So as they're investing this time and energy, for an individual, MARI is free for life, very similar to a LinkedIn profile. So they actually can take this with them. It's a private place. Obviously, data privacy and security is very important, not just to us from a school system standpoint, but if a student needs to have a place where they can say, this is what I'm not good at, they need to know that they're putting that information in a place where people are going to help them, not evaluate them. And so companies actually can't look through their MARI profile and pick out the top one. What we're asking the businesses to do is to say what's required, and now give our students a chance beginning in the early years to actually work their way toward that requirement that you define. So we're very excited about what's happening and going forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I might add to part of what he said that I believe is going to be important for everybody. All of the companies that we have worked with have said that a concern that they have about employers that they are interviewing and hiring for jobs often don't understand the soft skill of arriving to work on time. And it's become enough of a national issue and statewide issue that as we look at the states changing the assessment and accreditation expectations for schools, away from only looking at SOL scores, one of the first issues that's come up is student absenteeism and student tardiness. We anticipate that the state will be holding us accountable by those numbers in the near future. Now, there's one way to approach that, which is from the perspective of trying to be forceful with the court system and social services and others with parents, which is the way it's traditionally been taken. But when you look at the real issue, which is that many students are not showing up when they go into the workplace understanding that they have to go to work on time. One company even said that every person they'd hired in 2016, they'd fired because they had absences, that they couldn't, and they didn't tell anybody they weren't going to be there and they needed work. They'd passed the certification, the credentials that they had to have, but they just didn't show up to work. And so we're in a position with Mari to be able to say, to show the student, that's one of the soft skill expectations on the job. And we can tie that to your tardies or absenteeism at school. Now, I don't mean tie it as in you get punished. I mean tie it as in when you look at the profile and you see the job that you're looking for requires 100% participation, well, how am I doing now? Right now, you're showing only about 56% of the time you show up to class on time. There's a gap, and they're competing. And so rather than it being a responsibility of the school to reinforce that, it becomes something that parents and students can understand. This is important for me. If I want to have a job and not live with my parents the rest of my life, then I need to learn these skills that are important, that are soft skills as well as other things. So it's really making that connection in so many ways between the informal education activities that they love, like with Scouts or 4-H or so many hunting skills. It's bringing them together with what's going in the future. It's a GPS is a very good way of saying, and we're excited about the opportunity with our counselors and others to work with students in the future with it. But if you have questions, I wanted to make sure you had a chance to really know what we were speaking of when I described the Mari system. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carney. And speaking of that, I do want to bring to the attention of the board as well as the public that starting for the next 2 evenings, tomorrow night and on Thursday night, I will be actually looking for opportunity at Parkview Middle School and then at Bluestone Middle School to meet with parents as we begin the process of scheduling for classes for next year. At our earlier meeting in January, you approved the working document that is our program of studies Ms. Height had brought, and we've had a chance. We are going to have at least some published so that we can show the parents what will be coming home. I will be talking with parents and students about the importance of looking at their course selections from the perspective of long-term goals, not just next year, not just graduating from high school, but where are they going with their future and how do these classes that they're selecting move them in that direction. Again, just as a reminder, this is essential for 7th graders and below because they will be looking at a graduation and diploma opportunities that are much more personalized than our current plan for a regular or advanced studies diploma. We want to give the 8th graders through 12th, well, through 11th graders, the 12th graders obviously will be looking at university or job placement right at this point. But 8th through 11th graders, we want to be giving them every opportunity to take advantage of these programs and options. But as far as the career and technical classes, the opportunities that we have now, I see Dr. Patton here from the community college. We've had good conversation with them about actually partnering with they and with the Higher Ed Center in South Boston and others such that they can begin the process of the credentials they would earn as early as 11th grade, and then whatever they haven't successfully completed by 12th grade that's required, maybe because of age or whatever it might be, they can move seamlessly on to get the next level and complete the programs that they study or that they are working toward. But we need them to start early, and this is a national need that we have, and we're on top of it already. So that starts tomorrow evening at Parkview Middle School. It doesn't matter if you're from the east end or the west end. If you're busy tomorrow night, I know there's 4-H meetings tomorrow night, Thursday night, so those students may want to come to tomorrow night. There might be something going on tomorrow night. They go to the next level, but we are hoping that we'll get a good turnout for these meetings because it will be very important. And we also, I want to bring to your attention that we have the Code of Conduct issues from the VSBA for the school board and the clerk They have been put into your package for your consideration as you're asked about being able to approve those and put them in place for our board. That'll be an action item later on, but they're here for information if you have questions about them for you to have already looked at or to look at tonight. And Mr. Chairman, barring that, that would be my comments specifically under information reports for the evening.
All right, thank you. Now we're up to the committee reports. The first committee to report is the Joint Education and Capital Improvement Committee. And before we report, I just wanted to say we have 3 of our members on this committee together with 3 members of the Board of Supervisors. I was a spectator at their last meeting, but I would like to hear from any or all of the 3 members who are on this committee. Afterwards, if any other board members would like to comment, I would ask one thing, which I will also abide by. As the 2 boards move closer to a compromise on school facilities, I would like to stay focused on those possible compromises. At this point, we are all very familiar with each other's opinions and preferences on the issue and how passionately we hold them. We also know that in a compromise situation, no one person likely gets everything he or she would like. Please lay aside these tonight in the interest of reconciliation and constructive dialogue about a compromise we might send to the Board of Supervisors to move forward with the desperately needed upgrade of our facilities. So that would be Mr. Edwards, Mr. Palmer, and Ms. Bailey, if any of you want to speak about that meeting.
I can report if you'd like on.
Sure.
On January the 12th, we had our meeting, and present at the meeting were Mrs. Bailey, Mr. Palmer, myself, Mr. Ritchie, Mr. Nichols, the superintendent, and from the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Spain, Mr. Brankley, Mrs. Lundy, and Mr. Carter. We started out our meeting with different things about education. We discussed ways to try to give the teachers, all employees, a salary increase, and we set a goal of like 3%. That all depends on the budget and the money and the county and how they look at that, but that was discussed in our meeting. The second thing that we discussed, we are right now doing an assessment of our elementary schools to enter into an energy contract with Trane, who handles most of our equipment in our buildings and controls. So they are assessing our needs in our schools right now as far as lighting, heating and air conditioning, and some of the major issues. The Board of Supervisors has directed us, if this board is so determined or so directed, to look into full renovations to the elementary schools to get an idea of what that would cost to totally renovate our elementary schools and bring them up to date. We also came to the conclusion that we're nowhere as far as our secondary schools. We're fighting a losing battle east and west. They're good proposals, I understand, on both ends of the county. I see both. But we have to do something. We have to do some give and take. So we tried to work at that the other night, and we were asked to come up with a couple of ideas. Of course, a couple of us had our old ideas, and that was one school in Central High School, middle school in Boyden to equally educate children on both ends of the county. We also had, of course, the other one, that was to build high schools, middle schools on each end of the county. So that hadn't been a compromise so far. We've fought through that. Being grown people and trying to work for the education of the children in this county, we were asked to make give some alternates, something else that we might be able to work with. And one of those was to build a high school, middle school, consolidated between South Hill and Boyden. That was the way it was presented by Mrs. Lundy. The second one that we brought up, and I had been giving this a lot of thought, because a lot of the reason that I understood that South Hill wanted to keep their school, one of the reasons was to not shutter Parkview High School, but to keep it open on the hill so it's on a main highway and people could see it. My suggestion was to build a new high school, middle school, to serve a high school in Boyden to serve all students from the county, a middle school in Boyden beside that complex to serve the western end of the county, and to renovate Parkview High School and keep the middle school children in South Hill, and therefore we could initiate our programs of study that the superintendent has elected to go with in the high school level under one roof in the center of the county, and that was just my suggestion. These are all suggestions, and I think now that we've got these out on the table, we as grown-ups can sit here tonight and have some intelligent conversation and give some reasons so that all the public and this board can try to work closer to the decision to build a school. We've got money available if we act. If we don't act, interest rates and building costs are going to eat it up. And we need to do something and try to move forward to educate our children. If we start now, we're 3 to 4 years away from moving a child into any of these schools. So the decisions we make today, some of us may not be here to see it happen, but we need to get this started and do the best for the children and the employees of this county to move the county forward and to move education forward. And I'd just like to ask the chairman if he wants to have discussion on any of these items.
Sure, I'd like to, if Ms. Baylor or Mr. Palmer wants to give any impressions from the meeting, or did?
Sure, I will give my feelings. I feel that we are in the right direction. At least we had intelligent discussions, and that is something that in the past we have had. Each group drew up their little side and put a line in the sand, and neither group wanted to cross. But as of the last meeting that we had that included both groups, I was very happy that the word compromise came up. And with that, I am willing to talk because I really feel that we need to do something for the children of Mecklenburg County. I do not want to be one who is sitting here and have it said that I was one of the one who caused Mecklenburg County students not to get a quality education. Having said that, I still have my feelings about one or the other, and I have that, and I'm ready to discuss. But I will say again, I was very optimistic about the word, and actually it started with the supervisors that said compromise.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. That was a nice synopsis of what happened the other night, and I agree with Mr. Palmer and that it was a constructive meeting. And just one other element to that is that we do plan to meet with the supervisors again. The suggestion was that we come back together the first week in March or thereabouts, after both boards have had opportunities to discuss and flesh out these compromise situations. And I think, you know, that it does take time to flesh these out and for us to be able to make informed decisions as we have time to discuss amongst ourselves or with our constituents or with other people's constituents for that matter. I have friends all over this county, and I consider them all a resource for me in my decision making. And so we do plan to meet again in March, and maybe by that point, the two boards will have had time at that point to bring for us to bring some things back to them in the first week in March.
Okay. Did anybody else want to comment on these ideas that Mr. Edwards talked about as viable compromises?
I like all of mine.
I never doubted that.
I will say this, Ms. Lundy really was pushing a compromise. She's very open and really wants the two boards to meet. and I wish other people could have heard her comments when she was trying to get us to agree.
The only concern I have with Mr. Edwards' recommendation of renovating Parkview High School and then having the others in a general complex is if the consolidated school is given all the bells and whistles that they've been promised, then the children that'll be attending, I guess it would be Parkview Middle, or the school would be renamed or whatever, are not going to get an opportunity to participate in all those extra things like the auditorium, the different classes that, because like right now my child gets on a bus from the middle school and goes to the high school for a math class, and so does Mrs. Bailey's, and so does your child. I mean, I just don't understand why that is going to be a viable option to take the middle school education of the Parkview Middle School kids to the level that it would be if they were either two schools on each end or one school in the middle.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I guess they all have their flaws, and then we have to decide which ones we can live with. You know, none of them are perfect, and the idea behind the middle school at the Parkview site would, the perception that the people in South Hill might prefer that, having their school. I'm sure that's where that was born out of.
Right.
You know, and does that outweigh what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, does that outweigh the children of Parkview Middle School not getting the same opportunities as the rest of the community? That's my only concern.
And, Mr. Chairman, yes. And that's what so much of this has been about this whole time, is about making sure that each end of the county gets equal opportunity. And I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to spend a whole day in the school. I started out at Parkview Middle with Dr. Vidal that morning till about 1 or 2 o'clock, and then I was able to go to Parkview that afternoon. But I was really concerned when I went to Parkview Middle. When I made it into every classroom at both schools, and when I toured the front hall there at Parkview Middle School, it was utter chaos. All the ceilings were falling out on that, what I used to call the 6th grade hall, I'm sorry, which is now the 7th grade hall. Yes, but when I was at Parkview Middle, it was the 6th grade hall. So, you know, I'm kind of referencing it with Mrs. Bailey and, you know, these two boards, you know, talking, trying to find a compromise. You know, my whole thing to some of these board members is doing nothing is not an option. That is, to me, that is not an option. But I feel like with Mrs. Lundy, and unfortunately I was in Atlanta at the gift market for my business, so I wasn't able to attend that meeting. But I was so excited to hear that that word compromise, like Mrs. Garner said, was used. That was encouraging to me. So with that being said, I feel like that this board can make a general consensus. We're all adults, and we can come up with a great plan that will put our students and give them the best opportunity possible throughout Mecklenburg County.
Did anybody else?
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes, sir.
I guess compromise is always key. And for Ms. Lundy to make the motion or the idea of having a consolidated high school, middle school, somewhere between South Hill and Boyerton, that's a compromise. I think it's 10 miles difference. As Rob Campbell has pointed out, to do a renovation to the high school just to keep it open, my child also has to go to the high school to take a math class, and we're kind of in that same situation. And if we want every child to have the equal opportunity and maximize our resources, I guess the best option is a consolidated high school, middle school. The question is where. The wording that Ms. Lundy has used between South Hill and Boyerton gives is a couple of places there, and it, I guess, is not in the town of Boyerton or is not in the town of South Hill. And as adults, if we can reach that compromise, at least that gets us moving in the same direction.
And I would vote for that, but not centered between the two, because that puts it, that pinpoints us at Route 4. I think if we're going to do this, if we would make this motion to build it between South Hill and Boyden, and then let an architect come in and find the best location and make recommendations for this school, rather than this getting to be on a personal issue, I think we could probably get to a consensus.
Going back to saying, I was hoping, I'm hoping that we can be adults. Mr. Edwards, with all due respect, I don't think it's personal. I think what we're looking for is equal quality for all of the students.
So I will say what one of the Board of Supervisors said is, if it's about equal education, is a child at Lake Gaston any more important than a child that lives in Nelson or Buffalo Junction or Townsville, North Carolina, where they come from? And if you look at travel distances and you look at education, if you put it in the center, Boyden, Virginia, with water and sewer, which would save us $10 to $12 million, and a possibility of having a free place to put it, a very good possibility of having a free place to put it, which would mean another $6 million. That's just the way I've always wanted to go. But that's equal if you want equal education.
Well, I think his comment was, why is 2 children embracing more important than 1 on the Charlotte County line? And when you start talking about transporting children, then every student in this county is important. But when you start talking about cost, it costs more to transport those 2 children than it does the 1. And yes, it may cost more up front, but once that cost is paid for, you're going to save more on transportation if it's centrally located between South Hill and Boyden in transportation cost. And transportation cost is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, an extra 10 miles on the same amount of buses at the end of the year is going to increase the amount of diesel fuel that those buses use.
Well, if I could just add in, so everybody is up to date, that the population center that we were talking about, just using GIS software, was found to be further to the east, as you might suspect, because of the population of the county. And that's why they're talking about between South Hill and Boyden, because the county is very heavy to the east end. So much so, actually, that the center fell near Union level.
Actually, I think it was Camp Road, and that is the student population.
Right.
That is the people that we're here to serve, not the adults, but the students. The center of the student population is near Camp Road. So we're not asking for it to be at South Hill. I wouldn't ask for it to be at Camp Road. I think a compromise would be centrally located between the 2 towns.
I understand your points.
Well, I got another point.
Okay.
You're talking about travel for buses. You have a few more kids on your end of the county than we do on our end of the county.
Actually, we have about a third more
Okay,
kids.
all right. There are more children on each bus of yours, but we have just almost as many buses running the same distance to Boyden every day from Townsville, North Carolina. So the mileage on the buses is not a consideration. If that's a consideration, let's do a study on transportation costs so we can look at that as one of the criteria. I think that was looked at by the $75,000 that we spent by the Board of Supervisors to study this thing. But why don't we do a study on transportation, and let's throw that into the mix to see exactly the real numbers rather than us just talking about it.
Well,
And we got a GPS system that'll tell us that.
he's already done it. Yeah. I mean, I understand your point.
All right, how many
To us-
buses do we have running from Chase City and Clarksville? You can't answer that question because that's part of what I want to know. And I'm not getting
I
mad.
guess-
I'm just telling you that.
Does Mr. Mayhew, do we know how many buses are running, sir, right off the top of your head?
Not that you were prepared to answer that question, but here it is.
That's the reason I asked for,
Yeah.
could we do that and put that in the mix, That's
Well-
what we're here for, is to discuss these things.
I guess my biggest thing is the majority of this board requested 2 schools. Do you agree with that?
Because you're from South Hill, right?
Right.
No,
Well, let's
no,
try to move it down there.
Mr. Edwards, that
Well, wait a
was-
minute, that's the reason you
No,
want to move it
Mr.
down there.
Edwards, I'm speaking right now.
Okay, well, go ahead, you asked me a question, I
asked you a
answered.
question,
Okay, go ahead.
And the fact that I'm from South Hill was out of line.
No, it's
we'll
not.
just leave it
Is
there.
that where you live?
No, I live in
Mr.
Baskerville.
Chairman, this is where
Your
you step in
child
and
goes
say,
to South Hill, right?
Anyway, did the majority of this board, regardless of where I live, ask for 2 schools? Yes.
Did the steering committee ask for that?
Mr.
We
Edwards,
know
I'm-
all this already, though.
My
Can we-
point
Yeah,
is-
wait a
let's
second,
just-
now, here we are, we're back. where
I
we
know.
were.
Can we just get to the,
The
just get to
compromise,
the.
is what I'm saying is, the Board of Supervisors wanted 1 school. We
Right.
wanted 2. All right, so we're actually thinking about giving them their 1 school. They wanted 1 school in Boydton. So where is the compromise if we build 1 school in Boydton? There is no compromise as to what the majority of this board has voted for. That's my only point.
Okay, I see your point.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If we build 1 school in Boydton, that is exactly what the Board of Supervisors asked for, and that is no compromise.
Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, now,
Yes, sir.
I am ready and willing to negotiate, to compromise and perhaps put this school half the distance or somewhere in the vicinity that which we've discussed several times before. But I cannot go on record of saying that I want or will vote for the 1 school if we still do not have a definite area to place it, because I do not want it to wind up going all the way back to Boyden, which still could be construed as between Boyden and
Right.
South Hill. There needs to be some stipulation as to where it is going to be, and if that is something that we can negotiate and put on the table, I am willing to negotiate and work or compromise.
And
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
they asked for a compromise, but it seems like you want us to compromise only on your terms. I like what Mr. Edwards said. Bring the architect in. Let him look at locations and decide where the best place to go. Now, if there is land in Boyden that's free, why are we going to spend millions to buy a
Right,
piece
we
of
know this
land just
argument
to...
already. Right.
Compromise.
I'm very familiar with that.
So
Yes.
my question would be is, let's say the architect comes in and he says, the best 2 places to put it is either in Boynton or at the existing Parkview High School site. And both of them are free. We're no closer than we were.
Right. So I don't know if we want to put it in the
That's what I'm
hands of
saying.
just a
Well,
We're no
architect.
closer than
Why
we
can't
were
we
if they
decide
come and
that?
say that.
Why can't we decide?
because
Mr. Sturman,
we don't
you
know
just-
what the specs are.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes, sir.
as we get back in the mud again, which we need to stay out of the mud.
it doesn't have to be.
We need to stay out of the mud. If the consensus of the board is going to be a compromise of location, none of us are going to be going to school. It's going to be about our kids. The reality is, does it matter if it's at Route 4? Does it matter if it's at Boyton? If we can come together and say we're going to do a consolidated high school, middle school complex, I don't need to know the location first. If that location turns out in Route 4, I will support it. If the location comes out between Route 4 and Boyton, I'll support that. But we as a board first have to decide what we're going to do. Once we decide what, that's when funding is released for an architect and we can look at the location. So I think the bigger question, so we don't get into the where, if the compromise is a high school, middle school complex between South Hill and Boyton, then that should be it. If it turns out Route 4, great, because our kids are going to benefit. So I don't think we should fuss and fight or have to get a location tonight, because nobody knows the location. But what we can come to a consensus of is what we're going to do.
Right.
If the majority says what, then great, we're moving. And I think we just have to narrow it down to the what we want to do for a motion.
Right. But the location is certainly part of the compromise.
Yes.
So it's hard to leave that off, and I think it's appropriate to send a general location to the Board of Supervisors.
And
I don't
that's
think
where
that's out of line.
And that's where the motion
And-
comes between South
Right.
Hill
if
and
that's-
Boynton.
That's how we can,
And I'm just saying, if the motion said centrally located between South Hill and Boynton, that is where you start.
If the motion
That's
is,
not saying that, we're
exactly.
gonna flatten everything at Ralph
If the
Farm. That's where
motion,
we're building it.
if the motion
We're not
is,
gonna do that.
if the motion is centrally located between South Hill and Boynton, I will fully support it.
Thank you. At least got two.
Mr. Chairman, you all received a copy of the community input study. There were transportation numbers included in that report. They were not, I'm not going to say, Mr. Edwards, they were exact, but there were numbers. If you want to refer back to your community input study, there are transportation figures there. And Mr. Mayhew, I'm sure, was consulted for those numbers, so they are real and tangible and something that you can refer back to. I believe that this is, I'm so proud of y'all. We've had a nice discussion here this evening, and I think we've come a ways in terms of talking about what a compromise might look like. And I would urge each of you to go home and consult with the people that you represent and maybe some of the people that you don't represent. And let's continue to work on this.
May I
Yes,
make
sir.
an observation from the meeting the other night?
Yes, please.
There was, on the evening before our consolidated meeting, an agricultural meeting that took place in the county. And I'm very interested in what was said about that because they were looking at some opportunities that students in an adjoining county have that we would very much like to have as part of our Environmental Science Career Center. 30% of the jobs that are available in this country are agriculture-related. It's been the history of this county, and it is opportunities like having a site that could give us access for students to do the farm-related activities and the agriculture-related activities that will be an important component of looking for a site. We have so many opportunities for our children that need support. And I'm also very encouraged that we're looking at compromise that we need to be moving forward because I dread the idea of losing this opportunity for a strong program that the Board of Supervisors has asked for that will include a secondary building, that will include teacher salary increases, which we must have to be able to be competitive for the future, and also looking at the maintenance of our elementary schools.
Yeah, because the sense I got at that meeting, another thing was that if we weren't going to move on secondary schools, they were going to make a larger investment in the elementary schools, which would then kick the can way down the road. It would be, at that point, we wouldn't be going back to secondary schools anytime soon. So there's a sense of urgency, so much so that the Board of Supervisors said the word compromise several times, and I hadn't heard that before. So that was, we were encouraged. And, yeah, I think we're making good progress tonight, best we can. It's a passionate issue. Did anybody else have anything about Mr. Johnson?
I've said this several times, and I just want to say it again, that I'm looking at all the children of Mecklenburg County. I don't want my grandchildren that live on the South Hill End, on the East End, to have to go to a school that's been renovated or second rate. I want them to have the chance to go to a new school also. I have been confronted by several parents that say, why do my kids have to drive or ride a bus from Bluestone to Parkview to take some classes? Why don't we have the automotive class at Bluestone that they have in South Hill? And the only way that we're going to ever solve that problem is to have one place where all of our kids, my grandchildren from that end, my grandchildren from this end, we all come together. Now, I'm ready to make a decision tonight for the one school, and anywhere between South Hill, Route 4, Borden, we can work on that later. And I understand what Mr. Rich is saying, that he wants to have something in writing now as to exactly where it's going to go. And I think that's going to be hard to do. But I am all for the one school for the simple reason I want all the kids to have the advantage and have the ability to take all the programs and not have to be shunned or pushed aside because some live on this end, some on that end. It's time that we all come together. So we need to make some kind of decision that we want to one school. Then we got to make that second decision as where it's going to be. And everyone that I've talked to, even down on the South Hill end, the ones that I talk to, they tell me it doesn't matter as long as my kids get an education. I've asked them, I said, well, how about, are you worried about your children going to a bigger school, going to be more people because the two come together? And the answer is, our kids go off to college where there's 20 and 25 and 30,000 students. And so that's not a factor. And I've said this time and time again, but I've talked to a lot of parents. They want to argue that their kid has got to drive 5 or 6 miles further. But I ask them, does your kids go to Richmond? Do they go to Durham or Raleigh? Well, yes, they go down there to the arena to see sports. They travel. That's not an argument. Right now, we got to be concerned about the best education and the things that we can advance in our school system so that our kids in Mecklenburg County can be prepared when they go off to college. Now, you're looking at one right here. I never had no intention of going to college. When I was coming through high school, all I wanted to be was a race car driver or play football. But then I soon realized that that wasn't going to be what I was going to be. And I had to go to college. I never planned for it. And I regret that I didn't do more in studying English and some of those difficult classes. But now I've watched my kids and I made sure that my kids, one of them's a teacher, the other one works for the government. I made sure that my kids got all they could get while they was at Bluestone. Now the opportunity is coming that we can build one school so that our kids can learn and go forth a whole lot further than I ever went and being prepared when they go off into college and then out into society. And that's something we got to think about. This 5 mile, we are thinking about the school and the structure of the school and what it's going to be. I understand that's part of it. But how about the education is going to be fair for all the children? Not that our children have to be bused to Parkview to take some classes, and we don't even have the auto mechanics class at Bluestone anymore. How is that fair?
All right, well, we understand all that already,
Okay.
Mr. Johnson. And I didn't say that we needed to decide exactly where the school would be placed, but I think you can, a general location isn't inappropriate, and the distance does matter to some parents. It may not matter to us individually, but I don't want to degrade what some parents see as an important issue. If distance matters to them, then distance matters to them, and that's their issue. It doesn't have to be my issue.
But that's not the only issue.
No, but it may be to that parent. So everybody has their priorities, and I'm not here to degrade any of them. Does anybody else have?
One other thing,
Yes.
you know, we talked a lot about education, and don't second guess that we have an awesome education system in Mecklenburg County. We've had it as long as I can remember, 30-plus years. Don't set that to the side. We've got excellent teachers, administrators in every one of these buildings out here. We've got a quality education in Mecklenburg County, and it's afforded to you if you want it.
All right, anybody? Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to our next committee report. Let's see, that's the Finance Committee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee met this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Ms. Garner, Mr. Edwards, myself, Mr. Nichols, and Dr. Majette, and Christy Peffer, and other members of central office staff were here, and we looked at the bills that are scheduled to be paid and reviewed those. Hope you all noticed in your technology section of the bills that the Chromebooks are there. Quite a large expenditure on Chromebooks. And our technology department is making sure that all of our students have access to a device in their classroom. And that's quite an accomplishment for our county, I believe. Also, we did have a budget work session, and that work session was somewhat generalized, but I would urge each of you to contact central office staff with any concerns that you might have between now and our next meeting in February. Mr. Nichols will at that time be making some very firm projections of what our FY18 budget will look like. And if you have something that you would like to suggest, now is the time for you to do that. Or forever hold your peace, I suppose, but that's not the case. You always have input. But now is the most critical time. Keep in mind that we are looking at some mandatory increases, 10% with health insurance, as well as a 1.6% increase in VRS. We are very serious about offering a salary increase to all of our employees, not only teaching staff, but support staff as well. With that in mind, we hope that Richmond finds some money somewhere, since they seemed to lose some last year. And so we need your input on that. The committee also, Mr. Chairman, when we get to the point where we pay bills, just please know that the committee does recommend that we do pay the bills as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Gifted and talented, is there anything?
No, postpone the meeting until next month.
Okay, meeting until next month. CTE, Career and Technical Education. I believe Mr. Cyphers has something for us. Something wonderful, I'm sure, as always.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, school board members, and Mr. Nichols. February is proclaimed nationally as CTE month, so our first activity for the month we'll actually be doing will be our 2 career and technical education expos. We'll have one at each high school, and Ms. Hyde is giving you all some flyers now. Our first one is scheduled for February the 8th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Bluestone High School Library. And our second one is scheduled on February the 9th from 4 to 6 at Parkview High School Library. And we ask that you all please come out and support our students. Our students will be displaying some of their awesome projects that they've created. Our culinary arts students will be feeding us as well and have some of their sample food that they've prepared. And also Southside Virginia Community College as well will be participating with the dual enrollment CTE programs that we offer. So I ask again that you please come out and support us at both of these events if possible, so you can get a chance and see all the exciting things that our teachers and students are working on. Do y'all have any questions?
Just want to add to that, Gary. Thank you very much. This is wonderful that we're having this. It's expanding this year. In past years, we haven't seen so much turnout for these programs, but this is a very important part of the overall plan that we talked about earlier for our students and their parents to be able to come and see what's being offered, the credentials that are going along with them, and the actual programs and businesses that are supporting the programs from the perspective of the career centers that they are a part of. So we do encourage, just as we do for the meetings tomorrow night and Thursday night for planning for next year, these are very important meetings for the students and parents and the community to see what we have going on. As you mentioned, we have some great things going on in our schools, and this is going to be an example for people to be able to see.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cyphers. Next is the Athletics Discipline Committee. Any reports?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're now at the public input portion of our meeting. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
Yes. At this time, matters may be publicly brought to the attention of the school board and administration. Public comments at board meetings are just one of the many avenues for communication, and the board recognizes and appreciates the importance of input from and communication with the public we represent. The public is invited to sign up to speak. The clerk of the school board will write down your name, contact information, and the topic that you wish to speak about. The public is allowed up to 6 minutes at most meetings to express their views. Please respect that time limitation. It will be enforced. Please understand that it may not be possible to immediately respond to questions. As a reminder, it is inappropriate at a public meeting to make personal attacks, to be defamatory, or to disparage individuals or identifiable groups. Again, we welcome and appreciate your input. Prior to beginning your comment, please state your name to the board. Ms. Lori Wright?
Thank you, Chairman and Superintendent and the rest of the board. I'm Lori Wright. I'm from Black Ridge, Virginia. You all have heard me speak before. And I come before you today to remind you why consolidation in Mecklenburg County is a bad idea. Larger schools have reduced student involvement in extracurricular activity. If 15 girls can play on a high school varsity volleyball team, we can have 30 girls in this county play varsity volleyball today. If we consolidate schools, we can only have 15. So half the kids that would have participated can't participate, which leads me to the next bad idea. Larger schools have higher dropout rates. Kids that can't get involved in their schools have a harder time staying involved in their schools. Students can have an increased feeling of being anonymous and feeling lost in larger high schools. These students have a higher chance of falling behind and dropping out. Did you know that dropouts are 3 times more likely to receive public assistance than graduates who didn't go to college? Dropouts also earn 1/3 less than high school graduates. Dropouts are also 3.5 more times likely to be arrested. A study conducted by the American Education Research Association found that students in high schools with 600 to 900 students, which is what we can achieve without consolidation, have greater achievement in reading and math, which are SOL scores that Mecklenburg County consistently struggles to achieve high scores in. Why would we consolidate and make it harder? This is especially true of students in schools with a high population of minorities or socioeconomically challenged or poor students. Another study conducted by the U.S. Department of Education shows that schools with more than 1,000 students have 270% more vandalism, 825% more violent crimes, 3,200% more robberies, and 1,000% more weapon incidents. You have voted twice for high schools and middle schools on each end of the county and against consolidation. If you are considering a compromise with the county superintendents, any county supervisors, any compromise that includes consolidation anywhere in the county is not a compromise. Y'all be giving in. You keep putting the cart before the horse. You have no idea what any project proposed is going to cost. So I propose that you don't vote again on school facilities. I urge you to wait. Wait for the county supervisors to decide that they are going to actually fund new facilities. Wait until you, the school board, have the money. Then do your research on the true costs of the projects you decide to pursue. Figure out exactly what you can build for the money that you have been given. Then vote. According to a 2010 letter from the Attorney General of Virginia, and I quote, "A school board is solely responsible for the decision whether and how to consolidate schools, and a county board of supervisors may not instruct the school board to consolidate schools or how to consolidate schools. I have a copy if you'd like a copy of that letter. It's from the Virginia Attorney General to Congressman Kilgore in 2010. In other words, it is against the law for county supervisors to tell you what to do with facilities. I urge you to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else do we have?
Ellen Walker.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Walker, and I'm here to throw a monkey wrench into your afternoon. With all the building and things I've heard you're doing and want to do, I have not heard that we're going to have a vocational or STEM educational facility, a separate facility where the kids will go to vocational school or to the STEM school like they have in South Boston. They have the STEM Academy. And I know that the kids from Bluestone are going to South Boston to the STEM Academy. And I don't see why we're spending money to send kids all over the place when we can put them in our own complex. You know, a lot of places have the vocational education centers and the STEM centers along with the high school and the middle school, because the middle school can go there and they can get their exploratories. And I also haven't heard anything about the sports complex. I haven't heard anything about the football field, track and field, gymnastics, and we can bring in AAU. There is ways for all the kids to participate in some kind of sporting activity. Some of us do not want to participate in sporting activities. We'd rather have drama or music or whatever. So I'm asking you, as when you're thinking about the buildings and stuff, that we're also thinking about the vocational education and the STEM and the sports complex. And that will add money. And I'm willing to pay my part of the taxes, but I'm not willing to be nickel and dime for a whole lot of stuff. So that's just something I want you to think about.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
That's everybody.
That's everyone? All right, now we are, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, that's fine. You can speak. That's fine.
But the name is Robert Farrar, and I think I talked to most of the individuals on this school board yesterday.
Mr. Farrar, could you spell your last name for us, please?
F-A-R-R-A-R. Farrar.
Thank you so much.
But first, I want to say good evening to Mr. Nicholas and the rest of the school board. What came up for tonight is, like I said, I talked to most of the individuals on the school board, and what I told them I was willing to, in other words, if there's any way possible that we could reinstate Parkview varsity basketball, team for the rest of the year, reinstate, and I'm willing to be the individual that give the young men some kind of guidance, and so they can go forward. I'm retired, from the Army Reserves, and came back from Iraq. I just got all kind of compassion for people since I came back, and was so happy to make it back. And I worked in the Department of Correction for 27 years, and have to deal with all kinds of individuals. So I believe in a second chance, third chance, to be honest. And I know the kids, they get into stuff. Each one of us got kids, nephews, nieces, and all that. But like I said, if it's any way possible, I'm willing to, give 24/7, my time to be with these kids, and so they can, finish the remainder of the season. So in the next couple of days or whatever else, if y'all can make any kind of decision or whatever you decide, so be, but I'm willing. And I think I talked to Miss Garner, Dora Garner, yesterday too. and she said something about that, Proudview had to pay like $300 for something, and only to let you know I'm willing to pay that or whatever to get the kids back on the, you know, basketball court. You know, I'm willing to do that. You know what I'm saying? Kids make mistakes and things happen, but you know, I came to, you know, to speak to y'all this, you know, tonight about, you know, I'm really compassionate about that. Yeah, I'm a graduate of Proudview, and you know, I've seen a whole lot of situations in my life, and you know, kids, you know, we're in the business of getting them from point A to point B. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Farrar. Thank you. All right, if that's everyone, we can move on to our action items. Do I have a motion that the school board approves the minutes of the special school board meeting held on December 5th, 2016?
So moved.
Second.
So that was moved by Mr. Honeycutt, seconded by Mr. Sturdivant. Roll call?
Mr. Sturdivant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
And can I have a motion that the school board approves the minutes of this, from the regular held meeting on December 19th, 2016?
So moved.
Second.
We got a move by Ms. Bailey.
Seconded by Mr. Edwards. Roll call?
Mr. Sturdivant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. And we already have a motion from Ms. Bailey that the school board approves the payment of the bills. We don't need a second, so roll call?
Mr. Sturdivant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. Do we have a motion that the school board approves the personnel recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Edwards, seconded by Mr. Honeycutt. Roll call?
Mr. Sturdivant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. Now, the school calendar, what is the recommendation? We approve which option of the school calendar?
The recommendation for the school calendar, and this, it's option one.
Option
that
one?
we had looked at, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation that the school board approves option one of the 2017-2018 school calendar.
So move.
Second.
Yeah, Joe.
We have a,
Go
you have a
ahead.
comment?
Well, I will.
We have a motion from Mr. Sturdivant, seconded by Mr. Honeycutt.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Could someone from staff just elaborate on why you think the teachers or staff recommended option one rather than option two? We didn't have a chance to do this last week. We were supposed to look over that, and last month, I'm sorry. So it would be nice for me to understand why faculty prefers one over two.
I think as we were sitting in the committee meetings for the calendar committee, with option one of the things that the teachers liked was to be able to get as close to having the 2 weeks off at the holiday break, as well as starting early enough to have that clean break before Christmas, so that particularly at the secondary level, you can finish a course at the high school before the Christmas break. So they were just trying to allot for travel time and then make it pretty even with 90 days on one semester and 90 days on the other, whereas this year I think we were all about 90 days.
And just to clarify, option one start date is August 9th, correct?
August 9th for students, yes ma'am.
And the option two start date was August 14th, correct?
Yes, ma'am, for students.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question. And that's with the teachers coming back, Dr. Mashat, when?
On option one, new teachers begin on the 1st, and all staff returns on August 3rd. On option two, new teachers return on the 1st, and returning staff begins on the 7th, option two.
And in both calendars, there's 180 days involved.
And then there's 6 bank days each semester.
I'm sorry, how many?
6.
Okay.
Each semester.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. All right, now we're to the school facilities proposal. We made some, F, I'm sorry, Scott, I'm anxious. Policy regulations, KG R1, community use of school facilities. We have a recommendation, or do we have a motion that the school board approves the policy regulations, KG R1?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Bailey, seconded by Mr. Honeycutt. Roll call?
Discussion. I'm
Oh, you
sorry.
want discussion on it?
Just a
Sure. Sorry.
question. And this was what the gentleman brought to us last month? Okay. About using the, like, the elementary school, I know they're pastor, and they use that Wednesdays and Sundays.
Yes, and to, I'm not asking this question, but I have this information, just because it has been asked. There was a church who used that Southfield Elementary previously, and they used it for about 19 months, and this particular pastor that came, I believe Reverend Dagner, that came last month, they've been there for about 18 months, but with the new agreement, this one just ended for them when they hit.
They'd start.
Before they
Okay.
start, they would be able to start over.
Okay. Just some clarification. Thank you.
All right. Well, we do have a motion and a second, so roll call?
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. All right, next is schools facilities proposal. We had some discussion about that tonight.
I have a motion.
All right, which is that motion?
I have a motion that we build a consolidated high school, middle school complex due to the student population centrally located between South Hill and Boyd.
All right, Mr. Campbell has made a motion to
Second.
build is a consolidated high school, middle school complex centrally located between South Hill and Boyden
Due to the student population.
due to the student population. Do you have a question about that, Mr. Sturtevant, the way that was worded?
No, he seconded it.
I second it, and there's no question. I guess the motion is to build a consolidated high school, middle school complex between South Hill and Boydton.
Right.
And I think he added due to student population. But the actual motion is high school, middle school complex between South Hill and Boydton.
Centrally located.
Central located, yes.
Okay, centrally, and that's the one you seconded.
Yes.
So population has nothing to do with it.
I've made a second.
I mean, what population?
Central
Is that
location
He
was
did-
the first.
Low population or high population?
He didn't say population, it's just centrally located between, that's what he said, centrally located between South Hill and Boyden. That was the motion,
Period.
period. And then he
No.
commented,
I think
No, he
Paula
added-
should be able to read back my motion.
You read back the motion.
all right,
Mr. Campbell made a motion to build a consolidated high school and middle school centrally located between South Hill and Boynton. And Mr. Sturtevant seconded.
I think I said due to the student population in my original motion.
we weren't clear what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
That,
Due to
the majority of the students are in that area, so that's why I think that's where the school should.
so you're defining central as a population center?
So
or-
he's amending his.
No,
No, he said it right,
No,
he
we
said it
can-
right the
we can
first
play
time.
it back and
He
I
said it.
right the
He
first
said
time.
He said it, but I'm just asking for him to clarify before anybody votes on it.
I'm just saying, centrally located between South Hill and Boynton is the center of the student population, and that's where we should start looking for a site.
Right, that's where we can't guarantee that we can plop it down exactly there.
Right.
So we can't specify a specific point on the map, but that's where you would like to start.
We're close.
Are we gonna
All right, do we have
discuss?
any, if you have discussion on it?
Yep.
It would be nice to have a,
Sybil?
well, that, and it would be nice to have more than a 5-4 vote for once, so the Board of Supervisors know we're kind of moving together, but maybe we're not.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to say for 2 reasons, I'm voting for this proposal. Number one, we need the facilities for the students of the county, all students, no matter where they live. The second reason why I'm voting for this, and one person that's here will enjoy this, I want to see the stores in South Hill close up with a consolidated high school.
That's terrible. That's funny.
Yeah, unnecessary, yeah.
That's right, that's just.
That, you know, that was very unnecessary.
I'd hope
What
to,
everybody's been saying, I just.
well, it didn't have to be said again. That's all right. Is there any constructive
We're
comments?
out of order.
I constructed it.
The only thing I can't, I can support the first part, I can't support the, because what we're doing is, we're picking a spot, and I just can't pick a spot. I will vote for anything between South Hill and Boyden, but picking a spot, and that's what we just did, I can't support it, so. But that's all.
I have
don't
something.
think we're picking a spot, I think we're picking a starting point.
Well, if we leave that out, South Hill to Boyden, I'm on board, and I think we'll get a unanimous vote. But if we put that in.
I can't make it without centrally located as the starting point. And if you can't vote for it, I urge the rest of the board to be 8-1.
That's fine.
Mr. Ritchie.
And we'll just agree to disagree on that part.
That's fine, and
I mean, we're both adults, I mean.
Well, I mean, it doesn't, that's
It's
just.
not gonna poke my lip out because you're not gonna vote for it.
I know, I just have to, I have to support all the constituents in my end of the county. This is a major thing that they can't be treated equally to come halfway across this county to be educated. That's been a point in the Clarksville area forever. I realize it's only 5 miles, but when we start showing the numbers on this, it's $10 million extra to go to Route 4. $10 million in water and sewer costs. And I think that money could well be spent either upgrading our elementary schools or paying salaries for all these people sitting out here at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So call for the vote.
Well, real quick, too, Mr. Edwards, you said you had somebody that was, or knew of somebody that was willing to give the land in Boynton that would save us $6 million. Maybe we could work on finding somebody to give the land closer to Route 4 in between, you know, to give us that land where we won't have to spend that money as well.
That would be a wonderful thing. If you can bring them to me, I'd love to see that.
Okay. Well, you said you had somebody you knew that was willing to do that. Maybe I'll find someone.
Are we ready to?
Mr. Ritchie, I think Mr. Cameron has pointed out fairly well.
Right.
It is a starting point. We don't know where it is, but we're moving together. I'm ready for the vote.
That's right. Roll call?
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
No.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Edwards?
No.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
So what'd that come out to be?
What was the vote, Ms.
5-4.
5-4.
5-4.
Y'all go ahead and family land. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right.
Always in the 4, aren't you?
Huh?
Aren't you always in the 4?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Yes, next action item, Code of Conduct for School Board Clerk. Let's see, the chairman, as a school board clerk, let's see, okay, this is what I have to read first. Chair, as the school board clerk, you will strive to be an advocate for students, improve public education, and demonstrate appropriate behavior and conduct as a school board clerk. This is to Ms. Giamadio. And do I have a motion that the school board adopts the code of conduct for the school board clerk?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sturtevant, a second by Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes. Item I, Code of Conduct for School Board Members. As the school board, reads the same thing. I guess we're looking for a motion that the school board adopts the Code of Conduct for the school board members.
I'd like to make a motion that we move in accepting this code of conduct for this board.
I second that motion.
And just to note it, after the vote, the school board members who vote yes to adopt can sign the original copy of the document. So it's not necessary for everybody, just the ones that vote yes. And we had a motion by Mr. Honeycutt and seconded by Ms. Bailey.
Right, and just, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sure.
Yes, I think it's critical at this point that we weren't able to reach a consensus last year with a code of conduct for this board. I think it's very important moving forward, and I've done some homework since being elected as your parliamentarian. I was on a lengthy phone call with Gina Patterson on Friday. Was given some very informative information, also with the attorney there, sharing with me the do's and the don'ts. She made me light of a lot of things. And I feel ethically we can move forward as a board by signing this. I believe that this should be a unanimous decision by all. We've got Mrs. Garner, who serves as a vice chair for our region under the VSBA umbrella. So again, I would hope that all of us would be able to handle ourselves by accepting this code of conduct and moving in a professional manner.
Thank you. Anybody else have? All right, we have a motion and seconded. Roll call.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Abstain.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Abstain.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
All right, now we have some reminders. February 8th, Parent-Teacher Conference at the high school, 4 to 6:30. Is that at each high school?
Yes.
Okay, and then 13th, Professional Development Day, no school for students. My children will be happy about that.
And on the 20th, regular school, our next regular school board meeting. Now we're down to board member remarks. Maybe would you like to start on this side? Is that okay, Mr. Honey? Not this.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
If you're ready.
Again, just want to say thank you for the constructive work that this board has done this evening. I felt better tonight than I felt in a long time coming to this meeting. I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm. Even though I could not vote for the facilities proposal, I chose not to vote for the facilities proposal, the majority of this board has spoke. And I'm going to have to get on board with the majority and move our students and move this county forward with new facilities. I'm excited about that happening. Again, I would have liked to have seen it a different way, but it didn't happen like that. And again, I just appreciate everything that all of our people are doing in our school system, everybody involved. And again, we have the best school system anywhere around, and I just appreciate all you do and your support in me. And again, Dr. Rydell and Mr. Carter, I appreciate your participation and letting me come out to the schools the other week. And I want this to be a learning process for me as well, and I'm excited about what's coming. So thank you. Go MCPS.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell?
If any of y'all think I won any popularity contest tonight, I didn't. That my constituents are going to be mad with me. I told them when I started that I would fight for what they believed in and what I believed in for 2 schools, because that was what was the best thing in their minds and in my minds. However, from the get-go, I've always said doing nothing is not an option. Sometimes you have to play the hand that you're dealt. The Board of Supervisors are willing to compromise. I don't understand why we can't be willing to compromise also for the education of our children. Am I proud of what I done? No. Did I do what had to be done? Yes. And I will stand by that to the end of the night, tomorrow, whatever. I think it's going to be a good thing. Mr. Nichols has twice as much work on his plate now than he used to, so he better saddle up. And I wished it could have been a unanimous vote, but I understand why it wasn't. I just hope we can get past the rest of it and move forward and get what our county deserves.
Mr. Palmer?
I can repeat, or I could repeat, a lot of what has been said. I will start off by saying we have a great county. I've had the opportunity to move around to several different school systems. And yes, our county stands head and shoulder above a lot of the surrounding counties. So no one should ever doubt about our system. And the other thing is, I agree with Mr. Campbell, I'm not proud of what I have done tonight, but I did what is best for the students. I feel that with the Board of Supervisors, that is, agreeing to compromise, then I think it takes more than one person to compromise in a situation like we have here. So I think we did the right thing, and I think in the end, a lot of the people who disagree with me or with us will come to a sense that that was the best to do given the situation. And I'm proud of the young folks who won tonight. Again, I think our students are head or shoulder, and maybe I'm being biased, but I don't mind. But I think Mecklenburg County has a school system that is superb, and let's keep it going.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
I'd like to say to Mr. Campbell, don't be ashamed. I appreciate what you did tonight. I think even though we disagree on exactly where the school should be, that's a minor point. Consolidated High School is going to be the best for these children. The location now, hopefully we can start looking for location. We can start looking to build a school and get something done. But what you did tonight was brave. Don't be ashamed. I wish we could have all gotten together and done this 6 or 8 months ago, and we would have probably been breaking ground by now. It didn't happen, but at least we have a direction now, and I think the Board of Supervisors will look at this direction, and hopefully we can start planning and designing schools. And I'm excited about something happening, even though I was on a negative vote. If you noticed, I voted last, so I got to count before I voted. Thank you.
Ms. Bailey?
Maybe I missed something, but I don't think we're on a direction anywhere. I voted no because I don't support one school. And for all the reasons that I thank Lori Wright for coming tonight and reminding me of. We could have what everybody else wants. It's just our choice to do that. So I don't have a whole lot else to say about that, except go home and read a story to your baby before you put them to sleep tonight. And make books available in your home so that they can become the readers that they're going to need to be successful in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Johnson?
First of all, I'd like to say that I voted no tonight. Rob's got part of it real good. I'm behind him 100%. I just don't want to put my name on something that I don't know exactly where it's going to go. Politics is a funny thing, and it's an evil thing. So you got to make it plain. You got to make it plain. It's too wide open. I've been around too long. When you leave it wide open like that, you just don't know which way it's going. And also, I hope no one construed it that I said anything about our county not having good teachers. They got me through this system, And that shows you right there, we got good teachers. And I'll put Mecklenburg teachers, and I've watched them. I've gone down the hallway and I've watched them teach the little kids, and I've seen the high school teachers. We got the best, but that doesn't mean that we want to stay stuck at best. We want to go to better. And we have good teachers, but we want to do a little better. We want to have a good school, good facilities, and more things to offer our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Sturdivant?
Majority has spoken. And I want to thank you, Mr. Honeycutt, for acknowledging that because of the majority. And I hope every board member that voted negative will get on board and support us so that we can move forward to give our children the educational platform and facilities that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garner?
I would like to thank Mr. Campbell. It took a lot of nerve for you to stand up and make your proposal. And I really do think we will get to where we need to go. Somebody said it'll take another election before we do. I hope it doesn't, because I don't want to be pushed in here on a stretcher to make my vote known. But I will run again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. And, you know, I support Rob. Rob had, we weren't going to get, we've already said what we wanted to have, and we weren't going to get what we wanted to have. So then we have to choose from what's available to us. And I think that's what Rob did, and that's what I had to support. I mean, everybody knows how everybody up here feels about it, but like I said, in a compromise, no one person gets everything he or she wants. You have to give in order to get some things done, and this is one. I believe that this was one of those times, and that's why I supported Rob. And I appreciate everybody else that's on board with this as well. I think we have more support for this, even maybe not just in the vote, but also in spirit as well. So now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We're done.